Uh,
Where was this?
This was at our friend's Rob's garage. That guy, the guy on the drums, just passed away like
Oh,
2
I'm
weeks
so
ago.
sorry. Oh, I heard
Yeah.
about it. Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, he played with the BSO and the Boston Pops. Jim Gwen is his name.
That's too bad.
I know. And the thing, I got so much things to share. It's amazing. It's sad because
oh, okay.
Hi, Monique.
Hi, Ruth. Congratulations on your new great nephew.
Yes. I just became a great grandnephew, a great grand aunt rather.
great grandma.
My brother's daughter just had a third baby boy. No, she has a boy, a girl, and now a second
baby boy. Yeah. I let Sarah know.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm sure she'll know because they've been in, I sent you that picture of them both together.
Yeah.
So they're in communication all the time.
Yeah. And they have some friends in common now.
Isn't that nice? I'm so happy everything worked out.
Thank you for that connection.
It's cool. It's really cool. It's a small world, no matter where you connect people to.
Yeah, but thank you.
I'm more than happy to do that.
Yeah.
All right. So we had our little musical portion for today, and now we are ready for the Haftarah.
Sok b'divrei Torah, to engage in the study of Torah.
Who would like to read the Judges?
I'll do the Haftarah. I don't mind doing the Haftarah. So,
great.
Okay, I'll start. I think it's something wrong with my eyes. I'm going to have to have my eyes checked. I have to blow this up a little. Okay, here we go. Deborah, wife of Lapidoth, a woman, was a prophet at the time she was the leader of Israel. She used to sit under Devorah's palm between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim when the people of Israel came to her for decisions. I have to stop for a minute. Did I just read this? That a leader of Israel was a woman?
Yep.
This is amazing. I've never remember this before.
Remember when Archie Bunker, what he said about that? Bad example, meathead, because them Hebes have been ruled by Jewish mothers since time began.
Yeah, but this is a leader. This is a leader of Israel. We're not talking about Jewish mothers here. I mean, this is quite impressive. So she sent for Barak, son of Abinoam of Kadesh, in the territory of Naphtali, and said to him, "The Eternal, the God of Israel, commands you to draw up at Mount Tabor. Take with you 10,000 men from the tribes of Naphtali and Zebulun. Then I will draw Sisera, Shaban's army commander, with his chariots and troops to the Wadi Kishon, and I will hand him over to you." Barak answered, "I will go only if you come with me. If you don't, I won't go either." "I will most certainly go with you," she said, "but you will gain no glory on the path you are taking. For now the Eternal will hand Sisera over to a woman." So it is Devorah in Hebrew. That's why I said Devorah. So Deborah went with Barak to Kedesh. Barak called the tribes of Naphtali and Zebulun to Kedesh. 10,000 men then followed him on his march, and Deborah too went up with him. Now it happened that Heber, the Kenite, had moved away from the other Kenites, the descendants of Hobab. Moses' father-in-law, he had pitched his tent by Kedesh at Oak of Bezanim. When his scouts told Sisera that Barak had gone up to the Mount Tabor, he called out his chariots. He had 900 iron chariots. Boy, that's a lot. And his troops from Haroshet Goyim to the Wadi Kishon. Then Deborah said to Barak, "Up, this is the day in which the Eternal will put Sierra in your hands. The Eternal is marching ahead of you." So Barak went down from Mount Tabor along with 10,000 men, and the Eternal threw Sisera, his chariots, and his whole army into disarray. Because of Barak's onslaught, Sisera got down out of his chariot and ran away on foot. As Barak pursued the remaining chariots and soldiers as far as Haroshet Goyim, all of Sisera's soldiers fell by the sword. Not one was left alive. Wow, that's a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Sierra, however, escaped on foot and came to the tent of Jael, wife of Heber, the Kenite, because there was peace between King Jabin of Hazor and the family of Heber, the Kenite. Jael came out to greet Sisera. She said, "Come here, my lord, come here. There is nothing to be afraid of." So he went into the tent, and she covered him with a blanket. He said to her, "Let me have a little water, if you please. I'm thirsty." So she opened a skin of milk, gave him some to drink, and covered him again. He said, "Stand at the door of the tent, and if anyone comes and asks if anyone is here, tell him no, there is no one here." Sisera was exhausted and fell asleep. Then Jael took a tent peg and a mallet. Quietly, she went up to him and drove the peg into the side of his head, right through to the ground. So it was that he died. Wow.
Yep, that's the end.
Holy
that's the end of that guy. The Book of Judges is not a pretty book. Let's just say that. Yeah,
I never read this, so I have to tell you, this is all new to me.
Nice.
I'm just kind of wondering how many chariots. So it was 10,000.
I lost something. Why did she do this? Was it a she?
Jael, who I think she was more in line with Moses' father-in-law. Is that the one? Descendants? The Kenites?
Man, it's hard to follow all this.
Moses' father-in-law is a Midianite.
Quietly, she went up to him and drove the peg into the side of his head, right through to the ground. Why did she do that? It didn't say anything why she did it.
I think she was more aligned with Deborah and Barak, I believe. Maybe if we read on, we'll get more. Yeah, I think so.
He was a bad guy, Ruth.
Oh.
He wanted to overrun Israel. All right.
All right.
Bad guy.
Okay. All right.
Let's find out what happened.
It kind of came up to me a little quick, I have to tell you.
I thought,
and then, oh!
Whoops, someone gets killed.
And in the side of his head. Yep.
Okay, Barak came in pursuit of Sisera. Jael came out to greet him. She said, "Come here, I will show you the man you are looking for." He came after her and found Sisera lying dead with a tent peg in the side of his head. That day, God humbled Jabin, king of Canaan, before the people of Israel. The power of the Israelites bore on Jabin, king of Canaan, with increasing severity until they destroyed him. Okay. On that day, Deborah and Barak, son of Abinoam, sang the song. When Israelites let their hair grow loose, when people volunteer themselves, praise the Eternal. Listen, kings, hear you rulers. I sing to the Eternal, I sing. I chant to the Eternal, the God of Israel. Eternal One, when you were forward from Seir, when you marched from the land of Edom, earth shook, sky dripped. Yes, the clouds poured down water. The mountains quaked before the Eternal, the One of Sinai, before the Eternal, the God of Israel. In the time of Shamgar, son of Anat, in the time of Jael, roads had fallen into disuse. Travelers had taken the back roads. This song relates. Oh, am I supposed to be reading that? No.
If you want to find out more.
Yeah, let's go down. Let's find out what that's all about. Okay.
Okay, hold on. Stand by.
Hold on. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Am I in the right one?
No, you already went ahead. You went
You gotta
ahead.
back up.
You have to back up. Back up.
Oh, back up. Okay. Hold on.
Yeah. Am I talking too loud?
No, you sound great.
Oh, well, you know why I have a hearing aid and I very rarely use it. And I decided to use it tonight, and everything sounds way too loud to me. Okay. Okay. So this song relates some different facts than the preceding prose part. Most scholars agree that the poem is older, for it contains archaic expressions. Deborah and Barak, because Deborah is named first. The song has been primarily identified with her. Let their hair grow loose. Many soldiers had evidently taken a Nazirite vow, which prevented hair trimming. The territory east and southeast of the Dead Sea, one possible location of Mount Sinai, was the next verse. Shamgar, the judge preceding Deborah in the time of Jael. That is before the war, when people were afraid to venture into open country. This is interesting to me. Well, can you just go back a second? I'm sorry.
Sure.
It's something that just said there that the explanation of the song.
Yep.
It says, wait a minute, it said something very interesting to me. It said, "Oh, you keep on doing it."
Sorry, it's my mouse
I'm
thing.
sorry.
All right,
It
here we
says,
go.
stop right there. It says the territory east and south of the Dead Sea, one possible location of Mount Sinai. Now, I have been told, incidentally, that recently there is this guy. It's called I can't think of the name of it now. Something Exodus, and it's the actual area that they truly have found. Now they have found artifacts of where Mount Sinai was supposed to be, not where we think it is today. So I thought that's interesting because that came up already in the Torah, in the explanation here, which I've been told by many people that where we think Sinai is not where it was. It was in a different location closer to the Dead Sea. I just wanted to mention that. Okay. All right, we'll go back now.
Okay, hang on, stand by.
I just thought that's really interesting. Okay. All governess has left Israel till you rose up, Deborah. You rose, a mother in Israel. Choose new gods. There was war in the gates. 40,000 in Israel. No shield nor spear was to be seen. My heart goes out to Israel's leaders. Those are the people who offered themselves. Praise the Eternal. You riders on white donkeys. You who sit on saddles. You who walk the roads, ponder this well. Hark the bards strike up among the waters' troughs. There they tell of the victories of the Eternal, the victorious rule of the Eternal in Israel. The people of the Eternal march down to the gates and call, rouse yourself, Deborah, rouse yourself and sing a song. Arise, Barak, son of Abinon, take your captives. Thereupon the survivors defeated the mighty, the people of the Israel defeated the warriors for me. Out of the land of Ephraim, that once was Amalek's, they came, and then Benjamin after you with your troops. Leaders came down from Machir, and out of Zebulun, bearers of the ruler's scepter. The leaders of Issachar were with Deborah. So Issachar, so Barak. Oops, wait a minute. So Barak. Oh, is that it? Is that it? I can't hear you now, Michael. You became
Sorry.
mute.
What does this remind you of, this song? I mean, when have we seen
You talking like you're thinking more like the song of Mika Mocha?
Mika Mocha. There you go.
Yeah,
Song
Mika
of the
Mocha.
Sea.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. But this is another song. This is not the Mika Mocha song. Oh, is this more reading?
Well, the Micha Mocha is in this week's Torah portion.
It is.
So
That's why. That's the correlation between Haftorah and Torah, right? All right. Am I still reading?
Yes, you are.
I'm sorry. They followed his charge down the valley, and in Reuben's divisions were some leaders of resolute mind. Why then do you others stay behind among the sheepfolds, listening to the piping to the flocks? Reuben's divisions had chiefs who wrestled only in their minds. Gilead stayed east of the Jordan. Why did Dan keep to their ships? Asher remained at the shore of the sea, sticking to their landfalls. But Zebulun was a troop that was scorned death, along with Naphtali on the open heights. Kings came and fought. The kings of Canaan fought. In Tanakh, by Megiddo's waters, yet won no spoil or silver there. From heaven itself they fought. The stars in their courses fought against Sisera. The Wadi Kishon swept them away, the raging waters of Wadi Kishon. March on, my soul was might. Then the hoofs were pounding as the stallions came galloping along. Curse, Morose, said God's angel. Curse bitterly all who live there. They never came to the aid of the Eternal to help the Eternal against the warriors. Most blessed of women be Jael, wife of Heber, the Kenite. Most blessed of the woman in tents.
All right, I think there's more.
Okay. He asked for water. She gave him milk. She brought him curds in a bowl, fit for the mighty. One hand reached for the tent peg. The other took a laborer's hammer. She hammered Sisera and smashed his head. Oh, here we go again.
Yeah.
Piercing and passing right through his temples.
Aye.
Oh, my God. Yikes. These women were unbelievable. He sinks, falls, lies at her feet, and he sinks. He falls at her feet where he sank. There he fell down dead. Out of the window looked Sisera's mother. She peers through the lattice. Why is his chariot so long in coming? Why are his chariot's hoofbeats delayed? Her wisest ladies answer her, and she tells herself the same. They're dividing the spoil they have found. A girl or two for each man, dyed cloth as Sisera's spoil, embroidered cloth, and dyed too for every spoiler's neck. Let all your enemies, Eternal One, end like that. But let those who love you be as the sun rising in its might, and the land was at the rest for 40 years. It's interesting enough. You know what's interesting about this? There is a part in the Bible, of course, it talks about Devorah, who's a warrior too. But this is a different Devorah, right?
No,
That's
it's
a
the
good
same
question.
one. It's the same one.
Is it the
Oh,
same?
it's the same one?
It's the same one.
Oh, I thought this was a different Devorah. I'm so confused.
It's the same one.
Yeah. There's several different women warriors though too. There's one called Judith, who that's kind of in these other books of the Bible that sometimes don't get collected.
But okay, I knew that Devorah was a warrior, but so this is the same. I thought this was I get so confused with Haftorah. I have to be honest with you. I really need to study more because I really don't know much about the Haftorah, and I thought it was somebody different. But okay, all right. I just I think I'm done here, huh?
I think so, but wait. Yeah, you are.
Yeah,
you are.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
So I just want to point out one thing though too. So there's not many times this happens in the Bible. So the land was at rest for 40 years. That's
right.
That was a
kind of
long
amazing.
time. That was a long time for then.
That was a very long time, especially with all the wars and battles and stuff. Yeah,
That's true. And it doesn't happen much, but when nothing happens, all of a sudden they don't talk much during those 40 years because why? There's peace and nothing much to talk about. So then the next stage.
If it bleeds, it leads. You know that, Michael.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, my gosh, I've been
God
married.
forbid things stay peaceful for a while, right?
Michael, I want to ask you something.
Yes.
If ancient Israelite was so patriarchal, how did a woman get to be a leader, a judge?
That's what I was trying to figure out too.
That's true.
Do we know
How
that?
did she get to be a leader? That doesn't make sense to me in that time.
Well, she was called a prophet too. I think that's kind of the key, which is also there were some prophets in David's time who were female, and is she like Miriam? I guess the question is, could she be like Miriam in a sense that?
But Miriam wasn't a warrior.
Right, and she seemed to be more of a the one who gathered people together, and Barak was the warrior. I feel like, right, and she's kind of like leading him on. Here's the charge. So let's go. I just want to go back to there a little bit, and maybe we get a little more information. But she was the leader of Israel. Yeah, it's quite.
It's really
quite
that's something I did not know. So this was good for me to learn. There's so many things I don't know. It's really amazing.
Yeah.
I think I know things that I don't know.
I want to know why there are no more prophets.
We just don't hear about them. They've been.
There might be prophets right among us. You might be a prophet, Gary.
Yes, Gary, I think is.
Me? How would
I
I be
need
a
a
prophet?
prophet for 1 minute to give me the megabucks numbers.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, well, that's
I
this
want
is.
the megabucks numbers.
Oh,
Just
this is
one.
Ed talking now. Okay.
I just
I know. How
want
come any of these psychics never hit the mass millions or anything? You know?
Mhm. I know, really. So
Yeah.
anyway, as you look down here on this note, which is the other leaders called judges were men, so 4 women are elsewhere called prophet. So, so there's some, if I think it's interesting because it's obvious that she had a lot of say in the community, and one of the ways the Torah doesn't the Torah point this out, that if a person's a prophet, that their stuff will come true? Isn't that is that mentioned in the Torah? Or is that somewhere else? I might be confused.
I
But
don't know.
anyway,
I really
a
have to
prophet
study
has to have a
Torah.
track record.
If they're right, actually representing God's, right.
Yeah, they have to have a track record so that she has said things that come true through God's power, right? And
I
so
see.
that's my really sophomoric attempt to talk about how this person became I don't know what-
sophomoric.
yeah, my very what's the word? It's very like math. It's like rudimentary. So anyway, but that's my guess. I mean, we should probably look into Deborah. So let me just try to get.
Okay, so now we're back into the Pasha.
Yes.
Shalach.
If I could get in here. Okay, here we go. Bump, 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 bump. Okay, now this looks familiar. All right, who would like... Thank you so much, Ruthie, for giving us so many things to think about. And
Yeah, I learned a
read.
lot in this Haftarah portion, a real lot. Yeah.
yeah, Judges is a tough book. If you want a tough read, Judges is tough. There's a lot of bloodiness going on there, and it's tough. Same with
Maybe that's
Joshua.
the reason why I never read it.
Yeah, it's not. Well, I mean, every
I'm
part of
such
the
a
Bible.
peaceful person. I don't like
Good
reading
stuff.
about bloodshed, but there's a lot of it. Yeah.
Good stuff. Just like the book of Leviticus.
Oh yeah, the book. And I believe we have a volunteer who will read. Dr. Ed Weiner, please.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
A-okay.
Now, when Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them by the way of the land of the Philistines, although it was nearer. For God said, the people may have a change of heart when they see war and return to Egypt. So God led the people round about by way of the wilderness at the Sea of Reeds. Now the Israelites went up armed out of the land of Egypt. And Moses took with him the bones of Joseph, who had exacted an oath from the children of Israel, saying, God will be sure to take notice of you. Then you shall carry up my bones from here with you. They set out from Sukkot, the encampment at Etham, at the edge of the wilderness. The Eternal went before them in a pillar of cloud of day, to guide them along the way, and in a pillar of fire by night, to give them light, that they might travel day and night. The pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night did not depart from before the people. The Eternal One said to Moses, tell the Israelites to turn back and encamp before Pil-hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea, before Baal-zephon. You shall encamp facing it by the sea. Pharaoh will say to the Israelites, they are astray in the land, the wilderness has closed in on them. Then I will stiffen Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them, that I may gain glory through Pharaoh and all his hosts. And the Egyptians shall know I am the Eternal. And they did so. So wait a second. He is predicting that the Pharaoh is going to come after them. Isn't that what it says?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
When the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, Pharaoh and his courtiers had a change of heart about the people and said, what is this we have done, releasing Israel from our service? He ordered his chariot and took his force with him. He took 600 of his picked chariots and the rest of the chariots of Egypt with officers in all of them. The Eternal stiffened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he gave chase to the Israelites. And as the Israelites were departing defiantly, the Egyptians gave chase to them, and all the chariot horses of Pharaoh, his riders, and his warriors overtook them and camped by the sea near Pi Hathroth and Baal Zephon. As Pharaoh drew near, the Israelites caught sight of the Egyptians advancing upon them. Greatly frightened, the Israelites cried out to the Eternal, and they said to Moses, "What is it for want of graves in Egypt that you brought us to die in the wilderness? What have you done to us, taking us out of Egypt? Is this not the very thing we told you in Egypt, saying, 'Let us be, and we will serve the Egyptians, for it is better for us to serve the Egyptians than die in the wilderness?' But Moses said to the people, 'Have no fear, stand by, and witness the deliverance which the Eternal will work for you today. For the Egyptians who you see today, you will never see again. The Eternal will battle for you. You hold your peace.'"
Isn't this great? They're not even out of the land yet, and they're complaining. I love it. I love it. I love it.
This is all of it. Yeah.
That proves my wife is Jewish. Then the Eternal One said to Moses, "Why do you cry out to me? Tell the Israelites to go forward.
Go
And you
forward.
lift up your rod and hold out your arm over the sea and split it, so that the Israelites may march into the sea on dry ground. And I will stiffen the hearts of the Egyptians, so they go in after them, and I will gain glory through Pharaoh and all his warriors, his chariots, and his riders. Let the Egyptians know that I am the Eternal when I gain glory through Pharaoh, his chariots, and his riders." The angel of God, who had been going ahead of the Israelite army, now moved and followed behind them. And the pillar of cloud shifted in front of them, and it took up place behind them. And it came between the army of the Egyptians and the army of Israel. Thus there was the cloud with the darkness, and it cast a spell upon the night, so that the one could not come near the other through the night. Then Moses held out his arm over the sea, and the Eternal drove back the sea with a strong east. Strong east.
He's
Next.
getting there. He's getting there.
This is getting exciting. Hurry up.
Okay, wind.
A strong east wind all that night and turned the sea into dry ground. The waters were split, and the Israelites went into the sea on dry ground, the waters forming a wall for them on their right and on their left. The Egyptians came and pursued after them into the sea, all of Pharaoh's horses, chariots, and riders. At the morning watch, the Eternal looked down upon the Egyptian army from a pillar of fire and cloud and threw the Egyptian army into panic. God locked the wheels of their chariots so that they moved forward with difficulty, and the Egyptians said, "Let us free from the Israelites, for the Eternal is fighting for them against Egypt." Then the Eternal One said to Moses, "Hold out your arm over the sea, that the waters may come back upon the Egyptians and upon their chariots and upon their riders." Moses held out his arm over the sea, and at daybreak the sea returned to its normal state, and the Egyptians fled at its approach. But the Eternal hurled the Egyptians into the sea. The waters turned back and covered their chariots and the riders. Pharaoh's entire army that followed them into the sea, not one of them remained. But the Israelites had marched through the sea on dry ground, the waters forming a wall for them on the right and on their left.
Just before you continue, I just want you to know, every year, my husband and I used to tell this whole story during Passover, and my daughter, when she was like only 4 years old, said, "I can understand the Egyptians, being covered up into the sea, but why the horses?" She was so upset. She never could understand, what did the horses do to be killed? She told me that every single Passover. I just have to tell you, because that was such an important part.
There was no Peter chapter in
There
in
was no
Egypt
what?
at the time. There
PETA.
was no chapter of PETA.
Oh,
The
right.
PETA.
I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my.
But
So
it's just so funny that she said, "But why did the horses have to die?" And
Yeah,
every time
that's
I
great.
read this, it reminds me of this whole thing because my husband and I used to share this one part of the Torah all the time.
Which
at
daughter was
Passover.
this? Which daughter was this, Ruth?
My oldest, Natalie. Natalie, when she was, gosh, she must have been 4 years old. She was very, very sensitive to animals, and she couldn't understand why the horses had to be killed.
That's
so
awesome.
so I didn't realize
Yes.
that the Eternal hurled the Egyptians into the sea.
Yeah. I know there's a
Yeah.
lot here that the Eternal is really making this happen, right? That's one of them.
It's really
And
powerful.
I just noticed too that the cloud between the Egyptians and the Israelites, that was kind of a buffer and a barrier, and they couldn't get through it. There was like this. It was like he was keeping them separated until they got into the water, until they cleared through the water, and then it was over. You know, it's
Mike,
pretty amazing.
you haven't seen the movie.
Oh, you
I
never
saw
saw
parts
the
of it.
movie? Oh
Have you
my
ever seen the
gosh,
movie?
you would love the movie. It's the whole Torah coming to life.
Ten Commandments, the Ten Commandments, or something.
Yes.
Have you
Yeah,
seen
yeah, I
it?
saw it. Yeah, I saw it. I saw it last year. Yeah, because
Oh, okay. So that's
Myrna
pretty
kept
powerful.
talking
You
about
get
it.
the
Yeah,
whole-
it is really good. It's really good.
Yeah. That made a tremendous impact. I saw it when I was like 10 years old or something, 10 or 11.
Mhm.
And I remember how vividly that made such a difference to me in my life. I remember for years I used to tell people my favorite movie was The Ten Commandments until I got a little older.
Well, I want to ask
That was a
Gary,
tremendous impact on me when I was a little girl. You know.
Yeah.
Gary, I got a question for you because I know Gary will know the answer to this. How
Okay.
come it is January the 11th and we're reading this now, but Passover is in April?
It's just the way that the timing in the Torah cycle. When we get to Passover, on that time of the calendar, we're always at a different Torah portion because it's all in sync. We read the Haggadah, which is the story of Passover, which refers back to this. But there's no
It's not at the same
correlation, like,
time. Yeah.
between when the Torah portion comes out and when we celebrate Passover.
Interesting.
It doesn't coordinate.
No,
If that's what
I mean, we
you're
tell the
asking me.
story in the Haggadah. We talk about the going out of Egypt, and we're referring back to this, but it doesn't sync up. It.
Interesting. All right.
Well-
Oh, by the way, I did see the Sarajevo Haggadah. Does anyone know what that is?
No.
Yeah, I heard there was a different
It's the
Haggadah.
oldest
Yeah.
Haggadah in the
Yeah.
world. It's in Bosnia.
Very interesting.
What's a Haggadah? What's
Oh, that's the book that we read from by Passover. It's the
oh,
telling.
Passover book.
Haggadah means the telling of the story.
But whose name is
Oh.
not mentioned in the Haggadah?
Moses?
That's right.
Really?
Moses
Is
not
that true?
Yeah, Moses is not mentioned in the Haggadah.
How come, Gary?
I don't know.
Well,
I
it's just
really don't-
it really talks about all of the
And I know
the
I've heard rabbis
symbolism.
explain why, but I don't remember why. But he's not mentioned in there.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
I think. Well, I thought Rabbi Kudan said. It might have been Rabbi Kudan. That part of the reason is so that the focus wouldn't be like on Moses. It's like it's on the redemption.
It's about the
and
symbolism. It's about the
yeah,
symbolism.
something to that effect. I'm not
Yeah,
1,000% sure,
But
but
you
let's
know what?
look-
In the little children's Haggadah, it does show Moses as a baby being floated. You know, they do show that. They do show that little baby was Moses. So it does mention it in the children's Haggadahs. Yeah,
yeah.
because I have several children's Haggadahs for my kids, and it does show little Moses as a baby.
That's interesting. Wow. Because who else is mentioned in there? Isn't like Jacob and Joseph and is Joshua mentioned? There's some other.
Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi
Eliezer, and a lot about Eliyahu coming. It's all kind of like it's like a prophetic type of telling of the story. Yeah.
I see.
Avadim
right.
hayinu lefaro b'Mitzrayim. Yeah,
Okay,
we were
here it
slaves.
is. Here it is. It's on the internet.
Okay.
Somebody asked at my Seder this year why Moshe, which is Moses, is largely absent from the Magid. And I've
Okay.
heard that the reason is because we're supposed to focus on God, and also that Moses was very humble, and there might be a midrash about him asking not to be in it. But I can't source
Interesting.
any of that and those reasons. If not, what is it? And there's all kinds of stuff in here. So it was a big deal.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting.
Moses did not accomplish the desired goal of the exodus from Egypt. The actual redemption was only brought about through the plague of death of the firstborn, which is executed by God, and not
That's
through
right.
Moses, as we see in the Haggadah. I am
Yeah.
not the messenger. We therefore did not mention Moses' role in the Haggadah to teach us that everything was done by God, and Moses merely is a servant fulfilling the will of his master. There we go.
Interesting. Wow. That
All
sounds
right.
about similar. Okay. Do you want to
Okay.
continue, Dr. Ed, or does someone else want to read? Monique, you want to pick it up?
Sure. Where are we?
30.
Number 30.
30.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thus the Eternal delivered Israel that day from the Egyptians. Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the shore of the sea. And when Israel saw the wondrous power which the Eternal had yielded against the Egyptians, the people feared the Eternal. They had faith in the Eternal and in God's servant Moses.
Okay, now this is the song, right? I believe this is the song of the sea. And there's the sea.
Yes, Mika Mocha. Right?
Mika Mocha. All right, let me see if I can get to the next passage. All right.
Then Moses and the Israelites sang this song to the Eternal. They said, I will sing to the Eternal, for he has triumphed gloriously. Horse and driver he has hurled into the sea. The Eternal is my strength and might. He has become my deliverance. This is my God, and I will enshrine him. The God of my ancestors, and I will exalt him. The Eternal, the warrior, Eternal One is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and his army he has cast into the sea, and the pick of his officers are drowned in the sea of reeds. The deeps covered them. They went down to the depths like a stone. Your right hand, Eternal One, glorious in power. Your right hand, Eternal One, shadow. In your great triumph, you break your opponents. You send forth your fury. It consumes them like straw. At the blast of your nostrils, the waters piled up. The floods stood straight like a wall. The deeps froze in the heart of the sea. The foe said, I will pursue, I will overtake, I will divide the spoil.
There's the sea again. More Hebrew. Okay.
My desire shall have its fill of them. I will bear my sword. My hand shall subdue them. You made your wind blow. The sea covered them. They sank like lead in the majestic waters. Who is like you, Eternal One, among the celestials? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in splendor, working wonders? You put out your right hand. The earth swallowed them. In your love, you lead the people you redeemed. In your strength, you guide them to your holy abode. The peoples hear, they tremble. Agony grips the dwellers in Philistia. Now are the clans of Edom dismayed. The tribes of Moab trembling grips them. All the dwellers in Canaan are aghast. Terror and dread descend upon them. Through the might of your arm, they are still a stone. Till your people cross over, Eternal One. Till your people cross over whom you have ransomed. You will bring them and plant them in your own mountain, the place you made to dwell in, Eternal One. The sanctuary, O Lord, which your hands established.
And Brian is with us. Hi, Brianna.
Oh,
I
hi,
don't see you,
Bryna.
Bryna.
The Eternal will reign forever and ever. For the horses of Pharaoh with his chariots and riders went into the sea, and the Eternal turned back on them, the waters of the sea. But the Israelites marched on dry ground in the midst of the sea.
Nice. Okay, here we go. Then.
Now, I'm sorry, I missed that. Where is that from? Because Bryna called me to see it was okay to get on. What was
Yeah.
that? What was that? I'm sorry. What was that? Yeah, where did this come from?
This is the Song of the Sea.
This
right?
is the song of Mika Mocha.
And this is in the Torah?
Yes.
Yes, this is in the Torah.
Yes. So if you look at number 11, right? Isn't this it, Mika Mocha?
Yeah,
Mika
Mika Mocha. The other things is what she's saying in Hebrew. I mean, this is in Hebrew, but
Right.
she's saying it in English.
Hold up, Brian is here. I want to ask a question. One second.
Is she on our Zoom? She was in, but she dropped out. I don't know how.
Zoom kicked me out. Be back soon. Forced
Okay.
an update.
Okay.
So why is this necessary? Why, after all we just read, this is kind of interesting. Why is this necessary to reiterate all this? Unless God is looking for us to.
It's to confirm our loyalty to God. That's how
I think that's it. That he actually put it here. He said, I went on for 3 weeks telling you the story, but this is the summary because I need you to hold this close.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to kind of go over it and over it, because let's face it, how many times during the whole 40 years they kept on losing their faith? So he has to keep on reiterating his faith constantly. Do you get it? Do you get it? It's me that's doing all this. He's trying to tell you this over and over again.
Right. And also maybe they feel a little guilty for here comes Brian again. Okay. They might feel a little guilty for complaining before God threw the Egyptians into the sea, right? Maybe. I don't know. What do I know
not so
about
much that they kept losing their faith; they just kept not getting the faith.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's the whole story of that whole, the whole travel right through right to the Holy Land, right? It's just amazing how much faith they needed to keep going, Unbelievable. So is Bryna on? Hello, Bryna. Good to see you. I hope you're here.
Hi. Sorry about that.
Right.
Oh, it's
You're
okay.
back good. Okay. It's nice for you to join us in our Torah study.
Yeah, welcome. Welcome to Torah Underground.
Yeah. Deep.
So we're now at Mika Mocha. And we're moving along to this one. Okay, so...
And Miriam the prophet, Aaron's sister, picked up a hand drum, and all the women went out after her and danced with hand drums. And Miriam chanted for them. Sing to the Eternal, for he has triumphed gloriously. Horse and driver he has hurled into the sea. Then Moses caused Israel to set out from the Sea of Reeds. They went on into the wilderness of Shur. They traveled for 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. They came to Marah, but they could not drink the water of Marah because it was bitter. That is why it was named Marah. And the people grumbled against Moses, saying, "What shall we drink?" So he cried out to the Eternal, and the Eternal showed him a piece of wood. He threw it into the water, and the water became sweet. There God made for them a fixed rule there. They were put to the test. God said, "If you will heed the Eternal your God diligently, doing what is upright in God's sight, giving ear to God's commandments, and keeping all God's laws, then I will not bring upon you any of the diseases that I brought upon the Egyptians, for I, the Eternal, am your healer." And then they came to Elim, where there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees, and they encamped there besides the water. I think I'm going to stop here.
Okay. Thank you. That was a lot of reading. Thank you.
That was beautiful. Yeah, so that's what's one of the best passages too. And I think somebody pointed out last year that's the song is one of the first times that anybody praises God. Like we have Psalm 150, we have a lot of the Psalms that praise God, but this is the first time that everyone comes together in a congregation singing songs of praise to God. So that's also absolutely.
That's why Mika Mocha is always in all our services.
That's awesome.
And Miriam.
I like also where it says that what God says to the Israelites, "I am your healer."
Yes, that's
Yes.
fantastic.
I've never heard of God being described as a healer.
That is
Interesting.
so true. And you know, because it's what's coming up too, right? Remember the whole thing with the snakes around the pole, and you show them, and oh my, this is one of the things. Like this is the reason why I believe we read Torah every year and have so much fun with it. Is it's such a great story, and there's so many tales and so many lessons. I mean, and going back to Judges, when we started with Judges, because I've read that book a couple of times, and it's like every time I read the book, it's like I just want it to be over, you know. But with Torah, you want to hang on to it. You want to, go through it slowly and cherish every morsel, and it's really good. So
You are so more knowledgeable than most Jews. You know that, don't you?
Most
that's
rabbis.
why I love you. That's why I love you, because I'd be nowhere. I mean, that's why I always say Christianity would be nowhere without the Jews. Nowhere. Couldn't have it. You couldn't have it. We couldn't have it. Anyway, who would like to start 16:1? Anybody? Bryna, you want to read 16:1, or Gary, or myself?
I will if Bryna doesn't want to.
All right.
If no one wants to, I go back and read again. I don't care.
No, I just had to get my thing off mute. It's not easy for some reason. Setting out from Elim, the whole Israelite community came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after their departure from the land of Egypt. In the wilderness, the whole Israelite community grumbled against Moses and Aaron. The Israelites said to them, "If only we had died by the hand of the Eternal in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots, when we ate our fill of bread. For you have brought us out into the wilderness to starve this whole congregation to death." And the Eternal One said to Moses, "I will rain down bread for you from the sky, and the people shall go out and gather each day that day's portion, that I may thus test them to see whether they will follow my instructions or not. But on the sixth day, when they apportion what they had brought in, it shall prove to be double the amount they gather each day." So Moses and Aaron said to all the Israelites, "By evening you shall know it was your healer." Probably referring.
No. Wait. You got to go up again.
Oh, sorry.
That's
I
okay.
was like,
Yeah, those are the notes. But yeah,
those are the notes you said.
And let me tell you,
the notes. Michael, can you go back to the notes? It talks about God as a healer.
Oh yeah, okay.
and then I want to tell you the definition of flesh pot.
Okay.
this one. Oh, there it is. Look at that. Those are notes. I couldn't tell.
Yeah, those are notes.
Those are notes, but that's important too. It says your
Right.
healer, probably referring to the waters that God helped to sweeten, heal them from their bitterness. Interesting. Okay.
Mhm.
So that's where that came from.
And I wasn't sure what a flesh pot was. Places providing luxurious or hedonistic living. Usually any physical, often sexual pleasure that is illicit, and the places where such pleasure may be found. That's a flesh pot. Wasn't sure.
Wow. That's a lot of stuff there.
Are you sure that's the right definition for our Torah portion?
Well, yeah.
Fish, the Israelites recall eating fish, the main flesh in the Egyptian diet, along with delectable veg. In Egypt, the baking of bread was a fine art. It reported that there were different kinds of breads. Interesting. So the bread that came from the sky that he said was from the manna, was that a special type of bread?
Well, manna, the taste of manna was anything you wanted it to taste like.
Oh, interesting. I never knew that.
Yes, anything you wanted it to taste like.
Oh, I like that. That's
Didn't
so
the Torah,
cool.
though, didn't it say that it had like a taste like a honey waferish? Right in the Torah, I thought it was described like that.
I thought it was,
I don't remember seeing it in here yet, but I know I've read that in the Torah.
Something it was definitely a sweet bread.
Yeah, it's supposed to have like
Oh, I don't know
The
what
challah
the
comes
Bible.
from that. You know how our challah is kind of more sweeter than regular bread?
Mm.
And it's made with eggs,
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how that came about. Holla.
I don't know what Bible Gateway is because I don't know whether it's a reliable source, but it says that a flesh pot these pots were large metal kettles, which were used for the cooking of meat. Other purposes for which the pots were used were the boiling of water and for washing. Some scholars have felt that the statement that we were talking about, Exodus 16:3, have felt the statement to be somewhat strange, since meat was not part of the poor man's diet. However, Numbers 11:4 and 5 appear to indicate that fish was also considered as flesh.
I see.
11.
So maybe it was a cooking pot.
Yeah.
That's good. All right. So where were we now? Where are we going? By evening, that it was the eternal. All right.
Yeah.
We go. Okay. Then we're down by 13, I believe, right? Or
11.
No, it's at the top.
11.
Yep.
I think she's at 11.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I was at the top of the page.
Okay. Let me see.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I tried to continue from the prior page into the notes and I didn't get far.
Okay.
Go for it. You want to keep going, Bryna?
The Eternal who brought you out from the land of Egypt. And in the morning you shall behold the presence of the Eternal, because God has heard your grumblings against the Eternal. But who are we that you should grumble against us? Since it is the Eternal, Moses continued, who will give you flesh to eat in the evening and bread in the mornings to the full. Because the Eternal has heard the grumblings you utter, what is our part? Your grumbling is against the Eternal, not against us.
Ooh.
Then Moses said to Aaron, say to the whole Israelite community, advance toward the Eternal who has heard your grumbling. And as Aaron spoke to the whole Israelite community, they turned toward the wilderness, and there, in a cloud, appeared the presence of the Eternal. Ooh, that's cool. The Eternal One spoke to Moses, I have heard the grumbling of the Israelites. Speak to them and say, by evening you shall eat flesh, and in the morning you shall have your fill of bread. And you shall know that I am eternal, that I, the Eternal, am your God. In the evening, quail appeared and covered the camp. In the morning, there was a fall of dew about the camp. When the fall of dew lifted, there over the surface of the wilderness lay a fine and flaky substance, as fine as frost on the ground. When the Israelites saw it, they said to one another, what is it? For they do not know what it was. And Moses said to them, that is the bread which the Eternal has given you to eat. This is what the Eternal has commanded. Each household shall gather as much as it requires to eat. And Omer too.
I just want to go down to the notes here, just so maybe this will give us a little bit more to chew on, as it were, about the bread or the food.
Manna comes from the Septuagint's rendition of Numbers, utilized like bread as a substitute for grain. Okay.
Omer.
First one. There's not too much explained here at this point.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's move on. So in Omer 2, and so go ahead, Bryna.
Omer to a person. Okay.
A person, for as many of you as there are, each household shall fetch according to those in its tent. The Israelites did so, some gathering much, some little. But when they measured it by the Omer, anyone who had gathered much had no excess, and anyone who had gathered little had no deficiency. Each household had gathered as much as it needed to eat. And Moses said to them, let no one leave any of it over until morning. But they paid no attention to Moses. Some of them left it until morning, and it became infested with maggots and stank, and Moses was angry with them. So they gathered it every morning as much as each one needed to eat, for when the sun grew hot, it would melt. On the sixth day, they gathered double the amount of food, 2 omers for each. And when all of the chieftains of the community came and told Moses, he said to them, "This is what the Eternal meant. Tomorrow is the day of rest, a holy Sabbath of the Eternal. Bake what you would bake and boil what you would boil, and all that is left put aside to be kept until morning." So they put it aside until morning, and as Moses had ordered, and it did not turn foul, and there were no maggots in it. Then Moses said, "Eat it today, for today is the Sabbath of the Eternal. You will not find it today on the plain. 6 days you shall gather it. On the seventh day, the Sabbath, there will be none."
Isn't that amazing? I mean, I
That
love
is
this part.
really
This
powerful.
is great.
You know, it's really interesting because the Orthodox Jews, they really are very careful about when they cook for the Sabbath, that everything has to be done before the Sabbath because they don't use the stove, they don't light a fire. And that's why chont is something that they put in a big, pot, because it's something that they can eat all during Sabbath, because it's always, if they keep it warm on they can, if they start it in a crock pot, you can keep the crock pot on as long as they're not, so that's why a lot of them eat that chont,
What is that, Ruth?
Yeah, it's like a stew. It's like meat and vegetables. It's like you making a stew in a crock pot.
Okay.
My husband used to make it all the time, because my husband was Orthodox. So we used to do that all the time. We used to have everything cooked ahead of time. And, some things you didn't warm up, you just ate cold. And the chont was something that you could keep either on the stove, but you never could touch the fire. You couldn't shut it off or on. So most people had a crock pot.
So if you, I usually don't do this, but it's kind of interesting. I'm going to read the Hebrew and then I'll translate it. V'yom hashvi'i Shabbat lo yihiyeh bo, and it says on the seventh day Shabbat, it is not going to be here, and it's completely. Speaks it out and ties it out. And what's interesting, V'yom hashvi'i Shabbat is a phrase that we hear throughout the Torah. Even on 27, it says V'yehi bayom hashivi. Right there, it again spells it out. The Sabbath is the seventh day, not just the Sabbath, but he's completely, speaks it out that it's the seventh day. And that's what we hear on Shabbat all the time.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And it also reminds me, go ahead.
I was just going to say, that's why, as much as people get upset with the Orthodox, they say, oh, everything is to the letter. Well, they do it to the letter because that's what because when they study Torah and Talmud, they do it to the letter because they believe that's what God wants. And so, a lot of people get upset with them, but they do it because they really believe that's what God wants, And
that's the difference between Orthodoxy and Reform movement. The Orthodox believe that this has been written by God.
The
Reform says that this was inspired by God.
Right.
And that's the only difference.
But then but I'm going to tell you, there's many different interpretations other than that black and white, because there are many people that are even Reform that have feelings that God has a lot to do with that they have a belief in God that's not just only inspired. It's like it. I've just met so many people that have so many different beliefs that it's very hard for me to just say, oh, it's this or it's that. I don't believe it's just black or white. There's so many shades of gray in Judaism.
Yeah. Oh yeah, everywhere. I think in every religion. Every religion has shades.
It's just like I know people that look at the Reconstructionists. If you met some Reconstructionists, you think they were more Orthodox than Orthodox. I mean, I've met Reconstructionist Jews that are very observant, and then other Reconstructionist Jews that are kind of willy-nilly about it. So it all depends on their belief system.
Yeah.
It's really, I really, at this point in my life, after being in Orthodox, conservative, and Reform congregations, I see such a mixture in all of them now. I don't see one that's, when I grew up, it was more like really Reform. When I went to Temple Israel, when I was a kid, I went to Temple Israel when Rabbi Gittleson was the rabbi, and he was so far Reform. It was like the German Reform, real Reform. But now things have changed so much that it's very hard to find one thing that you can say is specifically Reform or conservative. I don't know. I just find that it's very hard to distinguish that anymore.
Yeah, and I think that's why I think every group needs to be kind of uplifted and allowed to have their beliefs, like
Right.
just because I love Chabad. I have really good friends that are practice in that tradition, and I just love it. I love listening to the Rebbe. I mean, it's like it's just phenomenal. So I feel like each different variety, whether it be Judaism, Christianity, I'm not so into evangelicalism, but but there's different flavors, of different things. But I wanted to point out here something really that kind of struck me today is that notice how God is going to, he doesn't want, or God, she doesn't want the food to be left overnight for 6 days, but on the last day, there won't be any maggots in it, and then it'll be fresh for the next day, for the Sabbath. Can you see just the divine intervention there?
Yeah, that would be divine intervention.
Yeah, for Shabbat. To me, because once we get into the readings in May, what is it? The ones we read, Gary, with the Shemitah, with the Sabbath year.
Is that in Devarim? I don't know if that's in Devarim.
And this is a
May.
Shemitah year, incidentally. This is a Shemitah year.
Yeah,
Did you know that?
I didn't know that. I did not know that.
Yes, it's a Shemitah year this year.
Wow. And so we should all take it off, right? And just
wait. Let me just tell you something.
That's what I can't wait for. I can't wait for the Shemitah.
That a friend of ours, all of ours is Brad is Brad Doherty, and Brad Doherty, as you know, is a farmer. He's a real farmer.
Yes, I know him very well.
And he explained to me only this week that this is a Shemitah year, and he is not growing anything at all this year. He's just going to feed the chickens and the
That's right. And in Israel, they do that all the time, and so it's very well known. And you want to know what's so interesting? My son-in-law, who's not Jewish, taught me about Shemitah because we had chickens and ducks and everything. He had a little farm, and he gave some of his ducks to Brad. I'll tell you about that later. But anyways, so he was kind of like a farmer, and his father was a farmer, and he knew about Shemitah, even though he wasn't Jewish. So I just want you to know that many farmers know about Shemitah, no matter if they're Jewish or not. That's what's so fascinating
then
about.
Dow Chemical came out and fertilized everything.
Yeah, they tore it up.
But I'm just saying, it's just very interesting.
Absolutely.
I think is interesting about this passage is how God anticipates that his rules will be broken.
Right.
Because you can't appreciate that the seventh day is a miracle unless you understood why it was. And to understand why it was a miracle, you have to understand what happens on the mornings when you don't follow God's order.
Right.
That's good.
So he understands the human condition.
Yeah. He created us. So he knows us. Absolutely. This is great. I love it. Who would like to continue? I don't think there's much left.
I will. I'd read a bit more.
All right.
Okay. Go ahead.
We're number 27?
Yes.
Okay. Yet some of the people went out on the seventh day to gather, but they found nothing. And the Eternal One said to Moses, "How long will you refuse to obey my commandments and my teachings? Mark that it is the Eternal who, having given you the Sabbath, therefore gives you 2 days' food on the 6th day. Let everyone remain in place. Let no one leave the vicinity on the 7th day. So that the people remained inactive on the 7th day. The house of Israel named it manna. It was like coriander seed, white, and it tasted like wafers and honey. See, that's what I had said before. Moses said, "This is what the Eternal has commanded. Let 1 omer of it be kept throughout the ages, in order that they may see the bread that I fed you in the wilderness when I brought you out from the land of Egypt." And Moses said to Aaron, "Take a jar, put 1 omer of manna in it, and place it before the Eternal to be kept throughout the ages." As the Eternal had commanded Moses, Aaron placed it before the pact to be kept. And the Israelites ate manna 40 years until they came to a settled land. They ate the manna until they came to the border of the land of Canaan. The omer is 1/10 of an ephah. Oh, okay. Wait. No, I'm sorry. That is where we start. Number 17, right? Yeah. From the wilderness of sin, the whole Israelite community continued by stages as the Eternal would command. They encamped at Rephidim, and there was no water for the people to drink. The people quarreled with Moses. "Give us water to drink," they said. And Moses replied to them, "Why do you quarrel with me? Why do you try the Eternal?" But the people thirsted there for water, and the people grumbled against Moses and said, "Why did you bring us up from Egypt? To kill us and our children and livestock with thirst?" Moses cried out to the Eternal, saying, "What shall I do with this people? Before long they will be stoning me." Then the Eternal One said to Moses, "Pass before the people. Take with you some of the elders of Israel, and take along the rod while standing there. I will be standing there before you on the rock at Horeb. Strike the rock, and water will issue from it, and the people will drink." And Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel. The place was named Massah and Meribah, because the Israelites quarreled, and because they tried the Eternal, saying, "Is the Eternal present among us or not?" Amalek came and fought with Israel at Rephidim. Moses said to Joshua, "Pick some troops for us and go out and do battle with Amalek. Tomorrow I will station myself on top of the hill with the rod of God in my hand." Joshua did as Moses told him and fought with Amalek, while Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. Then, whenever Moses held up his hand, Israel prevailed. But whenever he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. But Moses' hands grew heavy, so they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it, while Aaron and Hur, one on each side, supported his hands. Thus his hands remained steady until the sun set. And Joshua overwhelmed the people of Amalek with the sword. Then the Eternal One said to Moses, "Inscribe this in a document as a reminder and read it aloud to Joshua. I will utterly blot out the memory of Amalek from under heaven." And Moses built an altar and named it Adonai Nisi. And he said, it means hand upon the throne of the Eternal. The Eternal will be at war with Amalek throughout the ages.
Yeah, because Amalek is many nations, not just one. Yeah.
Amalek, yep.
Amalek,
That's
yeah.
whoever our adversaries are.
Yeah, wherever our adversaries are.
It's like the Plastic Ono Band, whoever was
Is
a
that
member
the
at any
end?
time. You know?
That is the end for this week.
Oh, wow.
My.
That was a long Pasha.
That really was.
That was a very long
There's a lot
Pasha.
in there.
There was a
Sure
lot
was.
in there, yeah.
And the thing
wow.
is, too, I was thinking before, Dr. Ed, what you were saying, like about how it, we don't read this at Passover. But at Passover, we do read certain excerpts from Beshalach.
Yes, we
Yeah.
We
do.
don't,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, we don't
We
read the whole
definitely
thing,
do.
but,
Yeah.
we go out of the Torah cycle for certain, on the festival. Yeah.
There's so much. I mean, that's why we have to read this every year, because I forgot everything I just read last year.
You always get something new every year. It's like
Yeah, but
there's
you
always
forget.
something new that
I don't know.
pops out.
Maybe I forget, so I have to remember. You guys have better memories than I do.
There's a lot here. It's great. It's awesome.
And it's great to have Bryna joining us tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you,
absolutely.
Brian. It's
Yes,
always nice to have a
Bryna.
new person. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Monique, too, for coming, and everybody.
Gary, did you sing tonight?
No, I don't have my guitar with me.
Where are you?
I'm at Annie's, but
Where's Annie?
See your hand.
Annie!
yeah, she's not on
Annie, are
the
you
camera
feeling better
tonight.
now?
Yes.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
We're both doing good. I only have one more day to isolate.
Yeah.
Oh, really? So you're isolating with Annie. Good.
Yeah, tomorrow's my last. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Yeah. But I only felt stinky for one night, like I said. It was just like 12 hours maybe.
Well, most people that were vaccinated didn't get much,
Yeah. Yeah.
sickness, with the Omicron, whatever the hell it's called.
Yeah.
Monique?
I always tell people Saturday, like I said, Ruthie, right? I said, God, because I do services all the time, God makes sure that I'm able to do them.
That's great.
Yeah.
So no
That's
matter
so
what
true.
happens, I've done them whether I have asthma or in the past I've done a few with laryngitis, but
Yeah.
either way, it works out. God makes sure that I'm able to persevere.
That's right.
Monique? Is
Baruch
Monique there?
Hashem.
Yes.
Yeah, Monique's here.
We need to introduce Monique to Brian and Missouri.
That's right.
Hi,
Oh,
Brian.
you
Hi,
don't know
Monique.
Brian. Oh, okay.
Monique is from Arlington, and she joins us every week. She's a wonderful addition, and
She used to be a member of TTI.
She used to be a member of TTI.
Wow.
yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, and Briner is our president right now.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, she's our president. Yeah.
Are you the choir leader?
No,
No.
she's the president of the temple.
She's thinking of Brian Tabasky.
Oh, you're thinking of Briner
Two
Tabasky.
Brian's.
No, this is a
Okay.
different Briner.
Trust me, I don't have the skill to play musical instruments or sing. And you do not want to hear me sing.
Yeah,
You don't
and you're
need
the
to. You have other
But she always
talents,
comes
and many
and
of them.
listens to us and appreciates us.
Yes.
Brian
She's very
is the
talented.
Briner of leadership.
Yes.
Yes.
An organization too. Didn't you organize like the way the food went out on Christmas Day for Ed? Yeah. That was great. That whole day was magnificent. I got a lot of footage.
And there's a great picture of Briner next to this movie star on the Jewish Journal, the next to the last page. So take a look
Yeah.
at
The
take a
movie
look
star
at the
is
Jewish
named Ed
Journal.
Who
Weiner.
was the movie star?
What?
Yes.
You'll recognize him.
My hands were on the film, Dr. Ed. My hands dump. You know that big thing where they dump the apples and it went. That's my arm.
That's right.
Not your whole arm, just a piece of your hand
Just
and
my
your
arm.
wrist. Yeah, just a little tiny bit.
And I haven't and Briner and I and Gary and Mike, we haven't get a chance to thank Annie for all her work on Christmas. My God, Annie.
Absolutely. Thank you
Well,
so much.
Everybody was working.
I
It was
know.
fun.
You've done
Thank
really,
you, Gary, for
really
coming
well.
in. And it was so much fun to hear you sing on Christmas Day, Gary.
Thank you. Oh,
And
yeah,
actually,
that's
you
cool.
too, Mike, because it was, it was great. You guys were walking around and
Yeah.
singing Hebrew
We did
songs.
part of it like out where they were cooking, and then we came out and did a bit out there.
We're missing other people tonight, Briner. We have Myrna is usually on, and who else?
Cynthia.
Cynthia is not here tonight either. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Dr.
come again.
Sturgeon used to be. Yes.
Thank you. It was
Yes,
great.
definitely.
Please join us. It's a very interesting. It's really quite mind-boggling what we learn from all this.
I know, it's
Underground,
amazing
the
how you
place
can
to be.
read the Torah 100 times and every single time get something
It's
Mhm.
really
different out of
wonderful. Yeah.
it.
Yep.
Out of the
Right.
same reading.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's why it's like you realize like how, thousands of years, how it's still all like, you know what I mean? Anything, there's nothing new under the sun, That's where it's all recorded, like, That's where it
Exactly.
is.
Well, everybody, good night. I've got a speech for tomorrow night I got to write.
All
so-
right.
All right.
All
Come
right.
back
Good
next
night,
week, everybody.
everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Everybody.
Good night. Have a good
Nervous,
one.
feel better.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Yeah, everybody
Bye.
get better.
Thank you.
Okay.
Feel better.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
God bless.
Bye.